And welcome back to Season 2 of Torah on the Go. I'm Rabbi Nolan Lebovitz, and sitting next to me is my partner, Rabbi Ed Feinstein. Welcome.
Welcome.
I hope everyone enjoyed their summer, and I hope that we are all back after Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Sukkot to our normal workout, driving, carpool routines, and you get a chance to carve out a regular time to study Torah, to think about matters that deal with our peoplehood, our narrative, our history, with the both of us. We are about to begin a very special book, the second book of the Torah. So last season we discussed Sefer Breshit, the book of Genesis, and this season we're going to talk all about Sefer Shemot, the book of Exodus. Before we get to the book of Exodus, though, we just celebrated a couple of days ago a holiday that kind of culminates the entire high holiday experience. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shmini Atzeret. You have a Hoshana Rabbah in there, Shmini Atzeret, and then it ends with Simchas Torah, where we end the Torah and begin the Torah all in the same day, so that we're never outside of the cycle of Torah readings. How do you think of Simchas Torah?
Well, first I want to know how many of our listeners have the courage to go to their boss and say, I need to take off a couple more days for Shmini Atzeret. And I want to know what happened. Like, you took off Rosh Hashanah, you took off Yom Kippur, then you had that other holiday with the booth, and now you want what? Right? Someone looks at a Jewish calendar and says, there's got to be a mistake here. Like, you guys can't put this many holidays stuffed up next to each other together. And the truth is, there's actually two different calendars that were conflated, and that's where we ended up with this. But they flow in a certain way. You know, we started in Elul, the last month of the year, before Rosh Hashanah, with a month of self-reflection, of introspection, of self-correction. It highlights, it climaxes in Rosh Hashanah, which is not the sort of joyful, happy New Year of American style. There's no funny hats and noisemakers. Instead, it's a reflective holiday. It's joyful, but it's reflective. And then 10 days of intense work on the self, on the inner life, on the patterns of our behavior that culminates in Yom Kippur, which is really a traumatic holiday. It's fasting, it's praying. You're really tearing the self apart, cleansing all the parts and slowly putting the self together. And that's how I understand Sukkot. So 4 days later, you have this holiday of Sukkot, which is a halfway house, no pun intended. You're putting the self back together. Everything that was forbidden on Yom Kippur is mandated on Sukkot. So we fast on Yom Kippur, we feast on Sukkot. On Yom Kippur, we spent the whole day in the synagogue. On Sukkot, we spent the whole holiday outside, under a thatched roof, looking up at the stars at night, enjoying the sunshine during the daytime. On Yom Kippur, we denied ourselves the pleasures of the body. On Sukkot, we enjoy all of them, the sensuality of being a body in space, a body in nature. And it's all about gratitude. It's all about life. It's Zman Simchatenu. You do that for 8 full days, and then you arrive at this last day, which is actually somewhat invented because it's not really in the Bible. It was invented by the rabbis. My understanding is this. Yom Kippur, religion was very heavy. It was morbid. It was about judgment, about life and death, pleading for another year of life, the heaviness, the gravitas, the weight of Jewish consciousness. On Simchas Torah and Simchat Torah, we lift up the Torah and we dance. Now it's joyful. Now it's about life. Now it's light. Now it's elevating us in a remarkable way. This is the corrective. So my plea, I'm sure you'll make the same plea, is if you came to Yom Kippur, you've got to come to Simchat Torah. Because if you just do Yom Kippur, you're going to walk away thinking, well, Judaism is pretty morbid. It's pretty down. It's pretty serious. You got to come to Simchat Torah and dance with us and sing with us and enjoy the sheer, utter joy of being a Jew.
And we reflect this through our most important symbols. We change the Torah covers to white Torah covers on the evening of Slichot, and the Torahs remain in those special covers all the way through the evening of Simchas Torah.
Right.
So we mark the season, again, the season beginning with, even before Rosh Hashanah, the month of Elul, as you mentioned, all the way through the end of Sukkot and Simchas Torah. Fascinating, because this is a podcast called Torah on the Go, And you just mentioned several times in the Torah we learn the Jewish calendar. And Simchas Torah, or the joy of Torah, as it's translated, this holiday is never mentioned. Never mentioned. So in all of the calendars, it says, they're in the 7th month of the Jewish calendar, because the first month is Nisan, with the month of Passover, according to the Torah. The 7th month will have a day of blasting the horn, Yom Teruah, that's Rosh Hashanah, a day of atonement, Yom Kippurim, that's the 10th day. Sukkot begins on the 15th day. The rabbis end the season with this holiday where we celebrate the gift of Torah. And in so many ways, it feels like we work the whole month to prove ourselves worthy of being the, let's call it the owners of this divine gift, right? And and as you said, it ends up with such a pinnacle of levity and joy and dancing and having fun. Celebrating the toy that not only God gave us, but our parents gave us, and our grandparents gave us, and their grandparents gave them. We're all dancing the same hakafot, the same circles that they enjoyed themselves. So this year, I read a fascinating teaching about Simchas Torah. In our clergy meetings, we're going to start teaching one another, which is great. And once a month, we'll do teachings that are only meant for the clergy office. And I delivered, of course, at Talking Torah on my Shabbos morning class. But this one is actually Eish Kodesh. So Eish Kodesh, or Holy Fire, was written by the Petitioner Rabbi, the rabbi from the Warsaw Ghetto. It was actually a gift to me by Reb Mimi Feigelson. On the day that I was ordained, she gave me this book, and she wrote a beautiful inscription inside the cover. And in a section of it, he describes Simchas Torah, the way he sees Simchas Torah. So the Torah ends. Now we're jumping to the end of the Torah on the go. So season 5, at the very end of season 5, we might get to this, which is the very end of the Torah, when we get to the 5th book. But the very end of the Torah ends with this statement, Lo kam navi od b'Yisrael asher yado Adonai panim al panim, right? There did not arise for the Jewish people another prophet like Moses that knew God face to face. Right. So the Rabbi Colonist Shapiro, who's the Petitioner Rabbi, the rabbi of the Warsaw Ghetto, who perished and whose teachings were buried in a jar and found and published into this volume called Eish Kodesh, Holy Fire. He asks, well, what is knowing God face to face? What does it mean that Moses was this prophet that's not going to rise again? What was his understanding of God? Well, his understanding of God, his divine insight into God was Breshit bara Elohim. So he doesn't read it that the ritual of Simchas Torah is that we lift one Torah, we end the Torah, we close it, and then we immediately lift the next Torah and open it and begin reading. He reads it that Simchas Torah is straight through, that we end the readings about Moses, who is going to be the subject of this season of the book of Exodus. We end the readings about Moses with a statement that no prophet like Moses will ever arise because of his understanding of God. And then we continue, that understanding of God is the exact story, the Torah itself, the Genesis, the creation story, that Moses had insight into this, and ends up, not that we end the Torah and begin the Torah, but rather, if the Torah was able to be constructed in such a way that it had no beginning and had no end, it flows the end just into the beginning. The beginning explains the end explains the beginning.
That's a beautiful teaching.
Isn't it unbelievable?
That's a lovely, lovely teaching. Yeah. Because the idea there is, so Moses, of course, is condemned to die in the desert, not to enter the land with his people, which breaks his heart. We hear that elsewhere in Deuteronomy. But God takes him on top of the mountain to a place called Pisgah, which literally means the peak. And he shows him the whole land. From the very north to the very south, the whole land, he gets to see the whole land. And then, he lies down and he dies. There's a whole midrash, of course, about Moses protesting his death. Saying, for all that I gave you, God, you couldn't give me a little more life. You couldn't give me the gift of immortality. And finally, what God says to Moshe in the midrash, this is all in the midrash, it's squeezed between the lines of Torah, says, look, if you don't die, they'll come worship you. And then the whole project of teaching this people to know God is going to die. You'll live, but your project, the wisdom that you taught this people, this wisdom of monotheism, this wisdom of an attachment to a God who is to this God is going to die. And Moshe realizes that's the choice. In a certain way, every generation has to make that choice. We have to step back and let the children and the children's children now live in the world and have full responsibility for the world. And Moshe realizes that's his choice. And when he realizes that his people's life is at stake, he says, okay, you're right. And he gives in, he surrenders, but it's the most beautiful thing. And then God gives him one last gift. It says that he died al pi Adonai,
Right.
which the Midrash understood not by the word of God, which is what it's translated as in the Torah these days, but rather with a kiss. That Moses dies with this gentle, gentle gesture of divine love. And God buries him there. And then you said that, then we have this last coda.
Right.
And we move to the very beginning all over again. It's a beautiful way to end it's a touching way. It's actually a very, very poignant way to end the book. And then you begin with the whole process of beginning, because that's what we're about. I mean, the whole idea that life begins, that we have the capacity to begin again.
And that, in many ways, sums up the entire High Holiday experience.
Yeah.
We come through this process of judgment, and we sit in these huts, as you mentioned, surrounded by family and friends.
Right.
And we realize that the way that we stood on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur thinking that it's all on our shoulders. Once the Torah cycles through, we realize we're all part of the circle. We're all part of the circle.
Yeah.
And it relies on none of us singularly to carry us forward. We're a people, we're a family, we're part of the children of Israel, and everything that we've been a part of now begins anew.
Yeah. I think there's one more thing that needs to be said, which I think is incredibly important this year, which of course is that October 7th, the catastrophe that befell us last year, was commemorated on October 7th this year as a yearly anniversary. That's the way it's done in Israel. The date is known as Shiva October. But of course it was Simchas Torah when it happened. And all over the world, rabbis, cantors, community leaders have been debating with each other and with themselves. What do we do? Do we compromise the joy of Simchat Torah in order to commemorate what the catastrophe, the horrifying catastrophe that came? Do we compromise? Do we not compromise? Some communities are canceling Simchat Torah altogether. Some are doing very somber memorials, with the rituals, I suspect, but a very somber kind of thing. And you and I have spent this year really working and reflecting on this. You have a very, very close relationship with John and Rachel and their beautiful son of blessed memory, Hirsch. And all of us have been feeling this. I've been to Israel many times now to feel it there. So the question was for us as well as every other rabbi and cantor in the country, what do we do? What do we do? So what are we going to do? What did we do? How did we make this decision?
Well, we made the decision because if the point of October 7th, if the perpetrators of October 7th wanted to destroy the Jewish people and the tradition and prevent us from dancing, we decided that it was time to dance again. Yeah. After a full year, even though we know that there are so many around the world who are still mourning and they're still grieving,
right, and waiting for hostages,
waiting
for children to come home from the front, and
waiting for families to move back to their homes, whether it be in the south or the north. Here, we've decided that it's our place at VBS to bring simcha back to Simchas Torah.
Right.
And I have to tell you, throughout the year, so many B'nai Mitzvah families, I know we've had the same experience, so many B'nai Mitzvah families have come into my office and they asked me,
Can we celebrate?
Yeah. How do we do this?
Right.
And we've both uniformly had the same response over and over and over again, that it's your obligation to celebrate at a simcha. And I feel like in so many ways, we recited Yizkor on Shmini Atzeret, which was a Yizkor which was the real Yizkor of the full year of mourning for those souls.
Right.
It was the yahrzeit in so many ways of October 7th, even though you said we commemorated October 7th on October 7th. The real yahrzeit, the 1 year anniversary of that massacre, according to the Hebrew calendar, was Shmini Atzeret, going into Simchas Torah, and now it's time to stand up and teach ourselves to dance again.
Right. You remember one of the really horrendous terrorist attacks, I think during the Second Intifada, was, and an attack on a discotheque in Jerusalem, South Tel Aviv, South Tel Aviv, called the Dolphinarium.
That's right.
Happened to be very popular with kids of Russian origin. Terrorists went inside, they exploded a suicide bomb, and dozens of young people were brutally murdered. A couple of days later, the kids who were there, who survived, came back and they spray painted on the burned out hulk of the building, Lo nafsik lirkod, right? We will not stop dancing. And that became as well the kind of motto of the festival. The festival, the Dance and Peace and Music Festival that was exploded on October 7th.
Nova.
We will dance again. Nova is a great word for it because it means Breshit. Right?
That's right.
We will dance again. And it's been our conviction, and I think it's important, it's our conviction that we must dance again. We must not allow the hate to remove the joy, the simcha of Simchat Torah, the joy of Jewish life. So it is, in a certain way, you dance without self-consciousness. That's what dancing is, of course. But this year, there's an element of self-consciousness to say, I'm doing this on purpose. Because I want to show my children, I want to show their children, that this is how Jews do it. This is, we will fight for life. We will fight those who hate us. We will push back against the evil. And then we will celebrate the joy of our faith, the joy of our culture, the joy of our connection with each other.
And that connection is bound up in that scroll.
Yeah.
That connection is symbolized by the covenant that Torah represents. And when we danced with the Torah this year, it means something different.
So Simchat Torah is a beginning as well as it's an end of the Torah. And then we roll it back to the beginning and we begin again. And I think it would be incumbent upon us, we're rabbis after all. I think we should ask folks, do something new this year. Take a topic that you want to learn. Take a topic from your faith, your culture that you want to learn. There's no reason to remain illiterate if that's how you feel, or to remain in a sense of not feeling fully competent as a member of this community. Take something you want to learn. If you need help, we have big bibliographies, both of us, and lots of books. Come and learn. Come and learn in a class. Come and learn on this podcast. Come and learn in the synagogue. We teach every Shabbat. And if not on your own, if you'd like to do it on your own, we can give you the books to read, the videos to watch. Make Simchat Torah a dedication to learning. And it's the most powerful answer, I think, to the hate that we've experienced this last year, is that we will dedicate ourselves doubly to protecting this culture by mastering it, by learning it, by internalizing it.
And if you have questions for us that you'd like us to answer or address on this podcast, please send us an email, and we will do our best to address each and every one of them. Well, it feels good to be back into the swing of things.
It sure does.
All right. That is episode 1, and we look forward to delving into the book of Exodus with you beginning next week. Have a wonderful day, and we look forward to learning with you next time.
Shana Tova. Let it be a wonderful year for us all, and let's learn together.